So good evening, everyone. All of the stage, all of you, in person, in and I guess many of you probably thinking. Some of you who might be wondering what is going on. These are situations kind of dealing with possible mandala offerings. You have one, five, that's simple as and then body, speech, and mind. And the statue can symbolize the body, and we have the text, the book that symbolize the speech, and there is Tupa that symbolize the mind. That was what it simply was opening of the So we haven't been able to hold a retreat for since pandemic. Before that, we had a retreat and in a nice place, but so we haven't been able to hold the retreat. And so after 2 years now, and before coming back and all of that. Normally it's much more better when you stay in one place and there is more time. But we can do it. So can you hear better? Okay, so. Yeah.
It's for the people on Zoom.
Okay. So we will start with the. It is always good to start with the right motivation. To start any activities, and especially when we're trying to start any spiritual activities. Any spiritual practice. It is always good to start with the right and the best motivation as much as possible. So we will start the day for the retreat today with that. And in order to, before we start that, we'll try to quiet our mind, bring our mind more and better. And we do that by watching the breath as we inhale and exhale, watching it mindfully as we inhale, watching mindfully, being aware you are as we exhale, watching mindfully and being aware you are exhaling. So we can try to generate good intention, for example, by thinking, may us here coming together, giving our precious time, effort, making the effort to gather together. May it remind us, inspire us, encourage us to cultivate and improve our loving kindness, compassion, the bodhicitta mind. May it be cause and conditions for us to fully develop our artistic potential, artistic intentions. And having cultivated and improved through loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. May we be able to be more and greater benefit and help to as many sentient beings as possible. Directly, indirectly, through any of our doors, spiritual body, speech, and minds. and may it be cause and conditions to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can fulfill the highest purpose of oneself and others, all sentient beings. So we can be not only benefit to others, but to be greatest benefit. And not only be greatest benefit to others, but to each and every sentient being. And may we be able to put effort in our everyday life and integrate our meditation practice so that we can become better persons, better human beings, with more compassion, more kindness, and with more wisdom. Okay.
To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one who can be the flourishing, the completely no the endowed. This teaching sentient beings. I'll go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha of the Dharma. 5 minutes. Each of man
So during this weekend, and the Bodhisattva mind, Sanskrit term, meaning enlightenment or awakening, and Chitta means the mind of awakening, the mind of enlightenment. Kind of literal translation. And what it means by the mind is, is the altruistic attitude, intentions, driven by the great compassion in order to liberate each and every sentient being from their suffering, the wish to achieve our highest potential, the fully awakened state. That's what the mind means, In other words, the wish to become the best of yourself, the wish to, achieve the highest quality that we can give, the potential that we can give. And the purpose to achieve that our highest potential and become fully awakened, enlightened, is so that we can be greatest benefit to each and every sentient being. Out of that great compassion, so that is what we call Bodhisattva mind.
I'm sorry. Recording.
So we are just describing what the Bodhichitta was, okay, what the Bodhichitta mind is. And of course, we will go more detail as we would go, but I just wanted to kind of describe in general because the title of and the subject and topic of this retreat is going to Bodhichitta, so just to know, because it's a term that a lot of people are familiar with, and maybe some people might not be familiar with. And so yeah, and within the Bodhichitta, there is ultimate Bodhichitta, conventional Bodhichitta, and the retreat we are going to be doing it more on conventional Bodhichitta, because conventional Bodhichitta is the foundations for the ultimate Bodhichitta. Without the conventional Bodhichitta, one cannot cultivate the ultimate Bodhichitta. And so, and that Bodhichitta mind and the practice of this Bodhichitta mind is the very heart of the Bodhisattva practice. Of course, the Bodhisattva's practice, many practices, you know. The practice of six perfections, such as moral discipline, generosity, patience, you know, joys even in virtues, meditative concentration, wisdom, you know, all so many different practices. But the life and the heart of the Bodhisattva's practice is the Bodhicitta. If there is no Bodhicitta, then one cannot be Bodhisattvas. What defines someone as Bodhisattva is whether someone has that Bodhicitta mind or not. You can have non-dualistic wisdom, but if you don't have Bodhicitta mind, that person can't be called Bodhisattva. Even you can have incredible concentrations that you can concentrate, meditate for, you know, for not only hours, days, weeks without losing any concentrations. You might have that kind of incredible concentrations, but still you will not be Bodhisattvas unless you have Bodhicitta mind, you know. So we can have all these others incredible positive qualities, inner positive mental state or qualities. But until someone is able to develop the Bodhicitta mind, that person's practitioner is not a Bodhisattva. So to define someone is Bodhisattva or not, it depends on whether someone has cultivated that Bodhicitta mind or not. If you have to cultivate that Bodhicitta mind, you might not have good concentrations, still you are Bodhisattvas. You might not have a great wisdom, still you are Bodhisattvas. You know, you might not have all other great positive quality, but you are still Bodhisattvas. And therefore, the Bodhicitta is the very heart practice, of the Bodhisattvas path, Mahayana path. And so that being the case, you know, and it is the Bodhicitta is highest level of, you can say, highest level of, you know, or supreme or highest level of altruistic mind, altruistic attitude, altruistic intentions, you know, highest level of compassion, you could say, you know. And the love, compassion, Bodhicitta mind is so crucial and necessary, especially in our time now. It seems like I was sharing, you know, in the past, I used to have certain thoughts. I used to believe, you know, if everyone has good modern educations, you know, the world would be better. You know, people would become more educated, having all this modern education. Everyone has that more awareness, more understanding of things. The world will be better, more kind, more compassion. People will treat more each other better. But I was wrong. You know, in terms of modern education, you know, if you look in general in the whole world, it has improved a lot. It has improved a lot, even though there are certain areas in the world where they don't have even the basic educations struggles. But in generally, everywhere, it has improved. And through that improvement, of course, many other things have improved, you know, technologies, many others. Through those improvements, we have better health, medicine, better cure when we are sick, and in many areas. But that area has improved. But, you know, in terms of, you know, people's inner peace, mental peace, that doesn't seem to improve. That doesn't have to improve. Instead, sometimes it feels like it's going worse and worse. People are feeling more and more lonely, more and more depressed, more and more hopeless. Less trust in humanity. It's like people doesn't trust another human being. That is becoming more and more. People have so much compassion to their pet, animals. Some people, they will probably give up their life in order to protect the animals. But when it comes to the human being, they have strong allergy. When it comes to the human beings, they have very strong allergy. There's so much of distrust, And through that, then, as a human beings, we are getting more and more, there's building more and more gap, becoming more and more distant. And that creates a lot of misperceptions, and then we started to have negative thoughts, feelings towards each other. And that doesn't help individual, that doesn't help as a society, as the world. There's more anger, more frustration, more anger, more violence, and come to realize, the only way to make things change better on individual level, on a bigger level, is to develop the good heart. That is the only way. Love, compassion, the bodhicitta mind, the good heart. I was sharing, like in many of the villages that I came from, and also I visited, even though, their living standard is very poor in so many areas, but people are much more happier, much more kind, generous, compassionate, taking care of each other. There's more and more of that, And so, even though they might not have the modern educations, even though they might have the same educations, but they have that good heart. And that makes the society much more better place to be in. There's more, more sense of feeling of community, families, supporting each other, helping each other. There's more kind of trust, more feeling of closeness, And that brings, when there is more kind of trust, more sense of closeness, it makes everyone more happier. You don't have to be scared all the time. And so it become obvious, very obvious and clear, the need to develop true love, compassion, and bodhicitta mind. The importance of that. Even we don't talk about fully enlightenment, even for just our own inner peace, happiness, individual level, on family level, within the country, within the world that we live in, that is becoming more and more obvious. Without that, I think we already see the consequences of not having developed that kind of altruistic mind, or emotions or attitude. So therefore, I think this practice therefore should be the main practice, the hard practice for all of us. Focus more on that. As His Holiness Lama says, like he has been asked so many times over the years, despite him going through so much challenges, so much adversities in his own life, the life of people around him, how is he able to keep his mind peaceful, calm, joyful, hopeful, positive, and not be so bitter and angry? For the most normal people, it will lead to bitterness and anger for having to go through that kind of, not only have gone through that, continue to go through that, continue to, and he says the only way that, the reason why he is able to, not be bitter, and not be upset and angry, and not to lose hope, and not to give up, and is because of his inner strength, and the inner strength that comes through the bodhicitta mind, the love and compassion. So if we can develop this bodhicitta mind, then we can develop incredible amount of, inner strength, courageous, self-confidence, and when you have that kind of incredible inner strength, self-confidence, courageous, and stillness, nothing can disturb your peace, nothing can disturb your calmness, nothing can make you so angry and bitter, regardless of how much challenging circumstances it might be. And also, for us, when we are faced with sufferings, challenges, difficult in our own life, and sometimes maybe not in our life, but people around us. It could be family, friend. Sometimes it might not be just family, but even with a stranger, when you see so much suffering in this world, sometimes we can become overwhelmed. And that can make us sometimes numb and frozen, sometimes that can make, because that is a way to protect ourselves. Do you get it? Because we are too overwhelmed by so much suffering and pain surrounding us. And we don't know how to deal with that. It's too much overwhelming. And the only way to protect ourselves, then we kind of shut down ourselves. We build a wall. And then we become like frozen, then we don't have that emotion, we don't have that feeling anymore. And that's how, that is for ordinary beings, when we don't have that foundations and the mind of bodhicitta. But once you have the bodhicitta mind, then it doesn't lead to that kind of, situation, circumstances, Someone like Dalai Lama, he feels the sufferings, not only of the Tibetan people, he feels the suffering of that's going in this world, everyone's suffering. He feels the suffering of all sentient beings. But that while he feels it, so he's not shut down. He's not shut down. He can feel the pain and suffering of others while you feel the pain and suffering, it doesn't disturb his inner peace, calmness, because of that strong practice or of the bodhicitta mind. It is like, I like to give this example, like in the oceans, there's waves. The oceans feel the waves. But in the depth, it does not disturb and destroy the stillness in the depth of the oceans. Do you get it? The oceans feel all the waves that comes, goes, big waves, small waves. While it feels it, but it doesn't disturb the stillness that is the depth of the oceans. And that is when someone has developed bodhicitta mind. That is how one can be. They feel the pain and suffering like the waves, but they have like the depth of the ocean. They have that stillness, and so that it doesn't really kind of destroy or disturb that stillness, that calmness, that peacefulness. In other cases, it's like the mountain that feels all the storm and everything, but unmoved. The storms comes, goes, big storm, small storm comes and goes. The mountains feel that storms, get hit by that storms, but still it cannot move the mountains. And that is how when someone has developed that kind of bodhicitta mind, then that is how you become like that mountains. You feel the others' pain, sufferings. You understand, you feel them, but without knocking you down. And I think that is what, and so if we can develop that bodhicitta mind, that is how much strength it brings, And then, as Kuna Lama Rinpoche says, as His Holiness always says, when you started to become lazy, meditate on bodhicitta mind, there's no time to be lazy. It's like, you are trying to be you are starting to become lazy, but then you have your child, your loving child, that might need your help. When you see that, when you feel there's no time to be lazy. Do you get it? Because your love and compassion for your child is so much, and you see this problem, their pain, their suffering, you see they need your help. Even you want to be lazy, you can't be lazy. Even you don't want to do anything, you can't do that. That your love, affection, compassion will not allow you to not to engage. Such is bodhicitta mind. When you have that bodhicitta mind, it's like all sentient beings are your child, your loving child. And so, there's no time to be lazy. And that is why, so many great masters, practitioners, whether it's His own Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa and so many others, they have so much energy. They have so much energy, even at that age, and even with some of their physical health issues. They have more energy than me, much younger, physically much healthier, I don't have that same level of energy. I cannot keep up with them. Because my love, compassion, bodhicitta is not strong enough. You know, on the other hand, even with that kind of age and physical challenges and that, but they have so much energy to do benefit for others. And that is what the driving force, the energies that make them is that bodhicitta mind, that love, compassion, bodhicitta mind towards other sentient beings. When you have that, then so that is then there is no time, no space for laziness. When our mind is starting to become arrogant, practice the bodhicitta mind. That will make you grounded. That will make you grounded. When we started to feel arrogant, I'm better than you, I'm better than him, her, I'm more superior, I'm more whatever reasons we get arrogant about, I'm more educated, I'm more attractive, I'm more famous, I'm more spiritual. Sometimes we can be arrogant, thinking I'm more spiritual and that person is non-spiritual, materialistic. Oh, these people are materialistic. I'm spiritual. I'm holy. Or sometimes we can feel arrogant about our compassion. Oh, I'm compassion. That person have no compassion at all. We can feel that way sometimes. So when you really feel, true bodhicitta mind, there's no space for arrogant. It will really make you grounded, rooted to the earth. When your mind is too low, when our mind is too low, when we become kind of, lose kind of self-confidence, when we lose, when we become kind of almost like depressed, our mind low, practice the bodhicitta mind, that would uplift your mind. That would uplift your mind. When you practice the bodhicitta mind, you think of all sentient beings, not just few individuals. You don't just think of just the humanities. You don't just think of human beings and animals. You think more than that. You think all sentient beings, seen and unseen, all sentient beings, and the well-being of all sentient beings. And when we meditate on, when some practice on bodhicitta and to cultivate bodhicitta mind, not only you think for the well-being of all sentient beings, not only you think of, reducing and releasing the suffering of all sentient beings, cause of the suffering of all sentient beings, but you also think, if I need to be in the samsara for eons and eons in order to help one sentient beings, I'm willing to do that. That's how you practice. That's how Bodhisattvas practice when they're practicing bodhicitta. That is, even if I need to be for eons and eons in order to help and benefit even one sentient beings, that I will not give up. I will not give up helping that sentient beings. And so when you train your mind in that way, and when you have developed such courage, through that kind of training of mind. And when you are willing to do that, then, we see some suffering here and there. You see, compared to all the suffering of sentient, this suffering is relatively lighter, not as bad, So then you don't become overwhelmed by that and make you depressed and your mind low, from that bigger pictures. When you look from that bigger pictures, yes, there is suffering. Yes, there is pain, and you feel it. But when you look all bigger pictures, that pain, that suffering that you are seeing, that you are experiencing, that you are feeling is quite relatively light, small. And same in terms of the time, when you think of eons and eons, from that relative, even if it takes your whole life to change something positive, it's a very short period. And so that you don't get discouraged. Do you get it what I mean? You don't get easily discouraged because you think it's very short time, even if you have to spend the rest of your time in order to bring positive change, in order to help, in order to be benefit, when you look from that bigger pictures of eons and eons. And that's how, when someone really practice the bodhicitta and take that practice in their heart, and when they train that way, then, no matter how much challenging the situation, the circumstances, they will not be easily discouraged. They will not be easily, lose the confidence, courage. So when your mind is low, practice the bodhicitta mind, and that can help uplift. That is like Nagarjuna in his precious garland, as he make the prayer and his practice, may I be service and may I be service and be used to all sentient beings as they wish, like the earth, the fire, the wind, the medicine, the forest, dedicating oneself for the sentient beings, everything's, may I hold others precious. May I hold others more precious even than my life. May all the suffering of others ripen on myself. May my all happiness ripen on others. I will, I will never let go, as I will never give up until each and every sentient being is liberated. Until each and every sentient being is liberated. Such practitioners, commitments, dedications. And when you practice with that kind of attitude, then nothing can knock you down. Nothing can knock you down. Similarly, Shandeva met, and His Holiness, he said he practiced that every day, and that gave him kind of, inner strength, confidence, the prayer that we recite often, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of others. When you train that, you are not saying, I'm going to escape from the problem as soon as possible. If there is a way that I can escape and avoid, I'm going to run. If there's a place where there is no suffering, I'm going to go there. I'm ready to go there. That's how we feel. If there's another world where there's less suffering, we are ready to go there. That the Bodhisattvas are that, they make this strong determination, courageous commitments to remain in the places where there are more sufferings in order to be greatest help and benefit, as long as it's required. Even if there's one sentient being suffering, still they will not go away. And so that is the training of the bodhicitta mind. When you have that kind of mind, then when you are willing, when you develop such mind, the willingness to remain for eons and eons, even for the happiness of one sentient being, or in order to release the suffering of one sentient being, then of course you wouldn't have any problem to be there for one lifetime, 2 lifetimes, for the happiness of many sentient beings. Did you get it? Just makes sense. So yeah, that is how such training make a huge difference in your mental attitude. Huge difference, and that's how the Bodhisattvas are so courageous and so strong, and and as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, he said he was reading biography of 7 Dalai Lama, one time he was reading that. And then, later part, at the end of the 7 Dalai Lama, there was a story about some of his disciples, saying, you have served sentient beings so much, you have served the Dharma, you have served sentient beings so many things, now you should be going to the Pure Land, And the 7 Dalai Lama said, in biography, he mentioned to them, I have no interest of going to Pure Land. I would rather come to this world where there is more suffering, so that I can serve the suffering sentient beings. Such is Bodhisattva's attitude. And His Holiness 14 Dalai Lama, he was so touched when he read and when he saw that. It really touched his heart. For us, if there is a possibility of going to a place where there's no suffering, who will be the first? Me first, I want to book that first, But because we have not trained in that kind of bodhisattva attitude or such bodhicitta mind, but when someone is trained in that bodhisattva attitude with that bodhicitta mind, then they have such a strong, courageous, competent mind, And I have often I've shared that also in the past. One of my teachers, previous abbot of the Kopan monastery in Nepal, Lama Zopa when he was dying, he had cancer and he died. And couple of days before he passed away, of course he was very weak, physically. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche is his guru, and Rinpoche visited his room, and he offered a kata, and offering, and then he made request. That was the last time he saw Lama Zopa Rinpoche, his teacher, his guru, and the last kind of request he made. And the request he made was, please bless me if it's more beneficial for me to be in hell realms. Please bless me to go to hell realms, if that is the most beneficial that I can be to others. Such is, for us, we will kind of ask, please bless me, pray me to have a better rebirth, higher rebirth, where there is no sufferings, there where we have better life. That will be, if there is someone who can grant us blessing and that wish, probably we will ask for that. But not for those bodhisattvas who have that bodhicitta mind. Rather, they ask for the most, where there is more suffering, if that is the most benefit, that is the best place to benefit others. So that your courage and confidence and attitude is so different. Do you see it? And how did they have such a courageous mind? How do they end up having such a courage, confidence in mind? This is the bodhicitta mind that make them who they are, being such a strong. So that is a little bit marketing the bodhicitta mind. The benefit of the bodhicitta mind. The more we understand the benefit of bodhicitta, the more we will be inspired to cultivate it. If you don't see the benefit, then you will not be so inspired to cultivate and develop it. The more benefit you see it, the more benefit you feel it, the more you will be inspired, the more you will be encouraged, the more you will be, have a inspiration to cultivate and develop. So that is the little bit on bodhicitta, and then next we talk about how to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, how to cultivate the bodhicitta mind. So just like any other mental inner qualities, whether it is the practice of discipline, whether it is a practice of contentment, whether it is a practice of patience, tolerance, whether it is a practice of wisdom, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, all those inner mental qualities, even we have not fully developed them, we can cultivate and fully develop them through particular practice, meditations, techniques, and everyone can develop that. Everyone has that potential. If we follow the right technique or meditations, the way to cultivate that, then definitely one can cultivate them, fully develop them, all of those qualities. Whether you are born with those qualities or not born with that quality, but you can cultivate, you can develop, and not only you can develop full of them if we follow. And so in the Buddhist scriptures, you find certain technique of meditations in order to develop those qualities. So here the bodhicitta mind, the bodhicitta attitude, mainly there are two kind of, in a classical text, in Maitreya and Asanga's writings, you find one particular meditation or practice to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, known as 7 point of cause and effect. Okay, there's one particular technique of meditation to develop that bodhicitta mind. You find in their writings, okay, Maitreya and Asanga's writings. And then you find in Shantideva's writing and Nagarjuna's writing, he doesn't go so details, but he does mention about that practice. And then Shantidevas go more details on that particular method and techniques, and that is called equalizing and exchanging self with others. So that is another technique of meditations to cultivate the bodhicitta minds. So basically, within the earlier Indian masters' writing, which are rooted in the sutras, Buddha's own sutras, sometimes in the sutras, what happens is kind of spread out, Then those commentaries, Indian master, they put together, combining together, taking here, and combining. Because a lot of the sutra is like whenever Buddha was traveling, he meets someone, they ask questions, and it's a lot of conversations, So it's not like you come with systematic way to do this and you explain. A lot of them is like different disciples, different individuals ask different questions at different times, and then the Buddha give answers, and so So sometimes it's kind of spread out. You can't find all of them in one particular sutras, but those Indian masters, then they put them to make us easy, because we don't have the time to read all the sutras. There are 100 volumes, So, and if you have to find each of them, so then they make the Indian later masters, they made it easy as to compile. They compile from them. So anyway, so in Shantidevas, both a way of life. In chapter 8, chapter on meditations, then he go very details on this particular technique of known as equalizing and exchanging self with others, that technique. So there are primarily those two different techniques of meditations. And then later, Lama Tsongkhapa, one of the great Tibetan masters who founded this particular Gelug lineage, he combined those two methods together. And, bringing those both methods together, and then, and so again. So basically, you can say those kind of three different methods. But, whatever method you use, by using any of those methods, one can cultivate the bodhicitta mind. It doesn't mean that if you don't use one particular method, that you will not be able to cultivate the bodhicitta mind. If it is that, so then why is there so many different methods of meditations? Because certain particular methods suit certain individuals' minds. Do you get it? That is why we have so many different meditations, sometimes for same things. And sometimes you wonder, why not make it simplify? Just have one. Why there's too many of them? Because sometimes we feel very overwhelmed, or there's so much practice. There's so many different meditations. And the reason where there is so many different methods is because certain methods are more effective to certain individuals, but that might not be as effective to another individual. Just like our body, medicines. The medicine has to be treated according to the individual's body. Even you have same illness. Same way, because of our different mind, because of our different interests, our different mind, the way our mind functions, our different predispositions. So certain particular meditation practice method is more suitable and more effective for someone, and then another method is more effective and more suitable for another person. But basically, you can follow any of those methods, and you can. And so, how do we know? How do I know this is more suitable, effective for me? Well, first you have to try. You have to try all of them, give enough time to work on that, and then you begin to feel, which one is more effective, more suitable. And then whatever is more effective, suitable, you try to continue that more, that particular meditation, that particular method, technique, So whichever method we choose, of course, I'm going to go in that more. But the foundations is equanimity. First, you need to have good foundation of equanimity. Okay? If you have a strong equanimity, then here, when you are trying to develop love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, we are not trying to train our mind to develop love and compassion for only certain individuals. We are training to develop love and compassion for all sentient beings. That is our goal, to be able to feel love, compassion, to have bodhicitta mind towards all sentient beings. If you want to reach that, if you want to be able to develop love, compassion for all sentient beings, then you need equanimity. If you don't have equanimity, then we find ourselves, we can feel love and compassion for your children, your parents, your friends, but we don't feel that way for certain people, we struggle. Not only we cannot feel love and compassion, we feel very much anger, hatred, and because of not having the equanimity, So first you develop equanimity. From the state of equanimity, then you start to develop love and compassion. Once you are equanimity, then it's much more easier to cultivate love and compassion for all sentient beings. And so therefore, the first stage of meditations in this practice, cultivating bodhicitta mind, is meditation on equanimity. And equanimity and indifference is very different, okay? Sometimes people get confused. Equanimity and indifference, okay? Equanimity is, you feel same way for everyone. You have concern, love, compassion, whatever, feeling for everyone equally, without discriminating, without being biased, without being partial. Indifference is you have no feelings. You doesn't care. Here is not that. Like you care all your children, but you care all equally. Do you get it? So that is one thing, again, we have to make clear distinguish between equanimity and indifference. We are not trying to develop indifference. We are trying to develop equanimity, and that is the foundation for the love and compassion. And of course, in order to develop equanimity, there are many meditation, different way of thinking, But again, basically, like many meditation, you kind of try to bring 3% in your mind in front of you, someone who is most close to you, someone who is more kind of indifference or maybe neutral person in your life, and then someone you dislike most, whether you call it enemy or not, but someone you dislike most. You have 3 people, and then you just bring in your mind and just let emotions to arise, whatever, and just let how you feel about them, how you feel it, and you will have different feeling towards those 3 three different individuals. There's feeling of closeness to the someone, and feeling of affections, love, compassions. To other ones, more kind of neutral feeling, more indifferent feeling. You don't really kind of care, good or bad. And then someone you dislike most, there's sense of feeling of, aversions, bitter, resentful, anger, So, and you are not trying to create that different emotion. It's just naturally, that is how those different feeling comes, and just let that arise. Recognize that, just watch it, When you think of that three individual in your mind in front of you, just let natural feeling to arise and just watch it. Just be aware of that. Just be aware and recognize how we have those different feelings towards those three different individuals. And next step of meditation is why I'm feeling so differently. Why? There must be something why I feel differently. So now we go deeper. Not only you let the feeling arise and become aware and recognize that, but now you try to understand why I'm having a different feeling for those two. And that is the next step of the meditation, analyzing. And then if we analyze, this person's, I feel close because he or she has been kind, helpful, beneficial. We have good relationship, this and that. That's the reason why I'm feeling that way. With the others, why I'm feeling aversion, resentful, and anger or bitter because he or she has done this and this to me, my family, friends, or to someone else, whoever that might be. He or she did this and that, not something helpful, beneficial, but something harmful, something bad, something negative. That's why we feel that way. And in the middle, the neutral person, we have more indifferent because we don't feel they have done any good to us, neither they have done any bad to us. So therefore, we don't feel so much strongly, attached to them. Neither we have a strong aversion to them. Is that the case? Is that why we feel that way? So this is something that we do. We self-reflect, contemplating that, In most cases, if you do, that is why we feel that way. That's how. And then next step of the meditations is, is to see, yes, this person has been kind, helpful, beneficial to me in the past. But if we take for many lifetimes, they have also been harmful in some of the lifetime. On the other hand, someone who has been not kind and good and harmful in this life, if we take for many lifetimes, there has been also been very kind, compassionate, caring, loving in the past as well. So both of them are equally being in certain lifetime, helpful, kind, compassionate, and certain lifetime they have become our enemy and hurt and harm equally. The same is the neutral persons. He or she has also been in certain life. We fought, we hurt each other, we harm each other in a certain life. We help each other, we take care of each other, we're kind to each other. So if you look for many lifetimes, they have all been equal in that similar. So therefore, it's incorrect to feel and treat differently on the basis of that. Just on the basis of how our relationship is on at the moment. if you look from bigger pictures, you know. And through that, then we try to feel more equal to all of them. Even we don't take from many lifetimes, you know. Even in this lifetime, things changes all the time. You know, in our life, some of the best friends we have, they are no more friends with us. Some of them, maybe we have bitter relationship now. You know, at one time we thought maybe we might never be separated because we're so much loving with each other. And then later, you know, it turned into something else. Bad relationship, a lot of bitter feelings, resentment and anger and all of that, you know. So, and then there are some, you know, we started with a bad relationship or with the misconceptions, or that person is very arrogant, that person seems to be very arrogant, that person seems to be unkind, and we have certain, you know, judgmental thoughts, certain projections, and later we begin to know that person and find out, oh, he or she is very nice, kind, compassionate, and then our relationships get better and start becoming good friends and supporting each other. We are not just kind of creating stories. That is our experience. It has already happened many times in our experience. Or experience of our families, friends that we have seen, you know. Even within the families, relation up and down, you know. Sometimes we fight and with each other. Sometimes we support each other and help each other, you know. So all kind of different relationships, nothing is fixed. Nothing's a guarantee. Everything's fluctuation, could change anytime, any moment. And so that being the reality, holding that as is permanent. The bad relations is going to be always that way permanent. Good relations, as those believing that is going to be always like that good relationship, or the one is neutral, that is going to be that kind of relation all the time. That is a totally mistaken. And with that understanding that everything is fluctuating, everything can change, so then we try to feel more equal to all of them. Friend can become enemy, enemy can become friend, stranger can become friends, stranger can become enemy, enemy can become stranger, friend can become stranger, you know. There are many friends, my friends, who are strangers now in my life. When I was young, good friend, now I don't know where they are. They don't know where I am. We don't have any relationship. So in a way, it's a stranger now. And most of my friendships started with a stranger, not knowing, and then develop. So therefore, all these different relationships and different our interactions is always changing, you know. That being the case, then having that kind of totally grasping or holding totally as though those are permanent, and then having that kind of strong attachment to one and strong aversion to others, that is not true to the reality, and that is not correct. And through that understanding, then again, we try to develop more kind of equanimity, same feeling, same equanimity to all of them, you know, neither having strong attachment, neither having strong aversions, you know, what kind of feeling was equal to all of them. And then, you know, from their point of view, you know, all of them want to be happy, do not want suffering, and they all have right to be happy and not to suffer. So discriminating will not be right and correct. You know, if you have 3 children, 4 children, you know, some might be good at studies, some might not be good at that. Someone might be kind, but naturally, someone might not be kind. But you have to treat them equally as your children. Not discriminate on them because one is more compassion and one is less compassion. Do you get it? We don't do that. We try not to have that kind of discriminating. You want to treat your children equally as much as you can. Even though someone might be more kind, compassion, caring, and someone might be less compassion, less caring. Because they all are your children. Because they are all your children. And same way, you know, all sentient beings, all these 3 categories and all sentient beings, you know, they all are like one child, you know, and they all wish to be happy and do not want suffering equally. And so through that understanding, again, from their point of view, that, again, trying to cultivate more equanimity and less discriminating mind. And so through that meditation practice, then we try to develop equanimity and strong foundation of equanimity. And if you have strong foundation of equanimity, your mind will be much more stable instead of fluctuating up and down at the moment. You know, due to lack of equanimity, our mind is up and down all the time. And secondly, that equanimity would help, that will create a strong foundation to really feel love, compassion, and expand to all of them and all sentient beings easily. So that is the, well, I think, okay, I think maybe we, I was planning to talk a little bit and do some meditations and have little question and answer, and now I just keep on blah, 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 and time's gone. So yeah, maybe, well, we didn't have the time to do the meditation, but I think you have to do the homework now. You know, I just described how to do it, and so you know how to do it. So at least you have to do 1 time before tomorrow's sessions. You know, if you can do a couple of times, that is wonderful. But at least 1 time, you know, either you want to do today or tomorrow morning before we come to class. At least you try to do the meditation equanimity. You know, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hours. You know, and sometimes when you try to meditate, you know, of course, there is, you go through certain points. And the main thing is trying to really feel it. That is what it is. You know, all the meditations, you do different analysis, different point of reasoning, logics, contemplations, and the end is leading to certain feelings. And here the feeling of equanimity. Okay. And once you feel that equanimity, then you try to stay in that equanimity. Try to rest in that equanimity feeling. Hold on that equanimity as long as you can. That feeling of equanimity as long as you can. Maybe you might be able to hold for a few minutes. You know, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You just hold on that. You know, but that feeling doesn't come naturally at the very beginning. So it is kind of built up through those different contemplation meditations. And then The point is to lead to that feeling. Okay. And once you have that feeling, rest in that feeling, hold that feeling, experience that feeling. And so that is, that can be the meditations, okay? So if there's question, I can take 1 or 2 questions. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I can check.
Does anyone have any questions? No? But can you see any in the chat?
So I don't see any questions. Yes, I have questions. Okay, yes, Degili. Either you can write it or you can ask. Okay. So, yes, please.
Okay. A question I have is, isn't all resultant action, skillful and unskillful, motivated from a motivation of self-compassion, wishing not to personally suffer? Like compassion for others may be missing, but trying to avert suffering within could always be a motivator for even wrathful action of some people. So just general question.
Still, I couldn't get exact questions.
So the question is, doesn't all action, resultant action, skillful and unskillful, come from a motivation of self-compassion, which is a wish that we don't personally suffer? Skillful or not, isn't that always the underlying reason?
I think self-compassion and self-cherishing or selfish attitude, that might be different. And of course, many of our for those who doesn't have the bodhicitta mind or true love and compassion, a lot of those actions are driven by selfish attitude, which is different from the self-compassion. Self-compassion and positive state of mind, whereas selfish attitude is not a positive attitude. Even self-cherishing, sometimes I don't want to use that, maybe self-cherishing thought or self-centeredness, maybe that would probably be a better word. Selfish attitude or self-centeredness will be a motivating factor for many of our actions, so that is different from self-compassion. Selfish attitude or self-centeredness and self-compassion is a different. Self-compassion is just as you have compassion on others because you are one of sentient beings, then you also have compassion on yourself because you are one of sentient beings who do not want suffering, just like the rest of other sentient beings. And in order to, for that purpose, then whatever you engage in the actions, skillful, unskillful actions, there can be that. But selfish attitude is a, not based on that understanding or the wisdom that because you are one of sentient beings, just like the rest of the other sentient beings, but on the basis that you are the center of all everything, you are the center of the world, you are the center of all sentient beings, and like treating yourself as a king, and it is everything's revolving around yourself, and that is selfish attitude, self-centeredness. And so I think, so I don't think it will be, I don't think all the action is driven by that self-compassion. There could be some actions that is driven by self-compassion, and a lot of action can be driven by a selfish attitude, but not true self-compassion. Okay, so I think maybe, yeah. Yes, and you have a question? Yes.
Earlier, very early in the discussion, there was some mention of this feeling how you dissociate sometimes when you see too much suffering. And I think sometimes in Santa Fe, I feel it, you see homeless people or you see someone asking for food or money. I almost feel like I'm making bad karma just walking by. So how is it, what is a good way of generating bodhicitta for these individuals?
Mm-hmm. The bodhicitta, whether it's the love, compassion, bodhicitta is a state of mind, and so even though sometimes we feel compassion for them, we might not be able to act the compassions, First, you have the compassion and wanting to help them, wanting to do something, but then, sense of feeling of insecurities, not being able to give or share because we feel maybe I don't have enough, there is not enough for me to share, give, sense of feeling insecurity or whatever other feelings comes, that kind of stop us from acting the compassions, but as long as you feel for that person's, that they are experiencing some suffering and the pain, you feel that, you acknowledge that, you don't try to turn away from that as though it is not there, there is no person there, there's no person who is experiencing suffering, some pain, whatever that is. If you feel that, then that is compassion, whether you act or not, in terms of the compassion itself. Of course, we want to be able to act the compassions, but it might not happen immediately. It is training. You have to be more and more. We have through training. We have to be more and more courageous, more stronger. So that will come with the trainings. But so I think maybe I want to talk about. Maybe I was going to talk in coming days, but I can kind of touch on here. When you talk about compassion, we can talk about two kinds of compassions, emotional compassions and compassions that we develop through training the mind. And those two are different. And most of our compassion at the moment is emotional compassions, and that emotional compassion is very unstable. That emotional compassion can easily turn into bitterness, or can easily turn into bitterness or other negative emotions. Also that emotional compassion does not last, it comes and goes, and so that emotional compassion is the seed from where we can walk on. But once we walk on that through practice meditations, then we try to, through training your mind, then you try to develop the true compassion. And once you develop that true compassion through the training, then it's not same like the emotional compassions, that training the mind. Emotional compassions is a lot of time is the projections of our mind. There's expectation, projections, many that. But the compassion that we develop through training the mind do not have all that attribute of projecting something there, or by our mind, or also expectations, conditions, and all of that. So once we are able to develop that, then it becomes much more stable and reliable. So I think maybe definitely I will kind of touch on that maybe in coming days, not tomorrow, day after tomorrow, a little bit on that. So yeah. Okay, maybe I will do the dedications. Can't read away. Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry.